Lynn. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kel Lash. Happy to be here. I renamed this show Many Miracles. So that just kept coming to me and nudging me. So I'm gonna go with that. And I got on today. My computer decided to let me use Zoom again this week. So that's a miracle. That's the first of many miracles in my day today. So I'm grateful for that. So I am feeling guided to talk about today judgments on others, judgments of ourselves. This has been coming up a lot in my field of vision of what I see. I think this is coming up a lot for everybody right now because, boy, are there a lot of differing opinions out there. Just like Lori was just talking about, we see all this stuff on the media and we make a choice with everything we see, everything we hear from anyone, whether it's someone we really love and trust or someone we don't know. We make a choice every moment to believe in what we see, to engage in something that is love or not love. We make a choice to engage in something. If it's not love, we're making a choice to engage with someone's call for love. As the Course says, someone's cry for love. And recently this is a lot of what I am seeing. To be completely honest, I see this everywhere. So, and I don't even watch the news. I don't even read it that much, but we can't be in a bubble. So I see it going on with my brothers and sisters around me where, as people are getting the shot in their arm. I might be talking about this in a weird way today and using weird language, but it's only because if I post this talk later on YouTube, I don't have to deal with it being taken down as easily. So, because that's a thing, that's part of the illusion of, people putting up their beliefs and opinions and then they can't share them with the world because they have certain specific opinions. So anyway, this has come up in several ways for me recently. The most common one has been experiencing judgment, outward judgments and shame and just blatant attacks from both sides of this controversial issue, where people who are pro and con, for the shot, not for the shot, judging people on the other side and shaming them, just outright shaming their decision to get it or not get it. And it has been a bit disturbing to me because I have friends, I have close people in my life, loved ones who are choosing to get it, choosing to not get it. Oh, there's Oliver, my roommate's kitty, making an appearance. He's a very sweet boy. And speaking of judgments and shaming and attacks, my very sweet, loving cat, Inky, has been adjusting to him moving in the last month with my new roommate. And she's so loving and so sweet, but she started off, she would like hiss at him all the time. She would advance herself towards him back into his room. Like she would basically bully him back into his bedroom. Like, you're not allowed to come out of the space. Like, this is where you belong. And it's actually a great representation of what we're doing. Like, literally, people, organizations, government, they're saying, you have to wear this thing on your face if you don't do this other thing. And you're going to continue having to do this if you don't do this other thing. You're not going to be allowed to go to college and enroll in college and get a higher education if you don't do this thing. And so this is a real thing. Like, you know, they're putting barriers up on our children who already have enormous barriers to getting education, you know, financial barriers and systemic barriers and racial barriers. And they're giving them one more barrier and saying, you have to get this thing that's not even approved by our government yet. It's only approved for emergency use to get an education, to pay lots of money to get an education. So this is where one of my judgments comes up around that. It comes up with, you know, around this topic where I start having judgments coming up around the people who are judging people on both sides and shaming people on both sides and pressuring people to get it. And it disturbs me. It's a disturbance. So I am engaging in other people's illusions with this. And this is coming up so much for me because it's coming up with other topics. Like it's coming up with, you know, it's not the Corona issue. This is a huge one, obviously, but it's coming up in other ways. Like, you know, I've been single for almost 2 years now, in the happy single life. It's been quite the wonderful dance here, but I've been like recently just dabbling a little bit in online dating and gonna come out of the closet here talking about online dating, but I need to paint this example here because it's coming up and I want to work through these judgments I have of other people's judgments because I've been reading this in the course recently too. So about engaging in my brothers and sisters' illusions. And so I come across these profiles of these people that seem wonderful people. I mean, all people are good. They're wonderful. They're innocent. They mean well. But they'll come across all these profiles that'll say things like ACAB, which is, for those of you that don't know what that stands for, ACAB stands for All Cops Are Bastards. And I don't even like saying that acronym out loud because so I started judging people when I see these profiles of these wonderful people like advocating for racial and social justice, and they're liberal and they're you know, they're part of my queer community. Like you know, they're not like the most privileged people, and they're calling an entire group of people bastards when they don't know, they haven't personally met every policeman and policewoman in this country, yet they're making a blanket judgment and shaming an entire group of people that is a system that's made up of individuals. Okay, so we have the system that is totally screwed up. Okay, I know, you know, I do believe that the police force should be defunded. I do believe it should be vastly restructured, and there should be education. You know, there should be education on racism and racial justice and just compassion and empathy training. There should be, you nonviolent communication training. There should be all the mental health training for the police force, like tons of stuff, right? That needs to be done. But that is a judgment, okay? So we're shaming, people are shaming, unknowingly shaming. Maybe they know it, I don't know, but they're shaming people, and the people that are not engaging in that are in the police force are innocent. And so I have strong reactions when I see this come up on these profiles. And I had another reaction recently. I went to a wonderful women's gathering on Beltane several weeks ago, and we had a ceremony, we had a fire, we had a drum circle, we had an outdoor dance party after. It was on this beautiful land. It was out in nature with all these wonderful women. And I came across another odd experience where one woman who was attending this event started talking about women-born women events, like historically. And at first I thought, like, is this just like something that she's talking about, or is this like an actual like term that people use? Like I never even heard of it. And I Googled it later that night when I got home, and I discovered that it was actually a term that was brought about during the second wave feminist movement, I believe, where feminists trying to dismantle the patriarchy were talking about women wanting to have spaces for women-born women, meaning excluding trans women and non-binary women. So only having space for women who were born cisgendered women, girls who were put the label of girl when they were born. So first of all, nobody is born a woman. I mean, gender is not really real, it's a construct, but a girl is born a girl, a boy is born a boy, whether or not they're a cisgender or transgender. We're not born women. I was born a little girl, I was born a baby. I was born genderless. And so, it's like, why? I couldn't believe that women who are trying to dismantle the patriarchy because they've been oppressed as women would exclude women who have had horrendous oppression throughout their life. From, like, trans women are some of the most discriminated against and oppressed group of people in the world. They get murdered all the time, just like Black people get murdered for who they are. They don't have privileges in the patriarchy. If they grow up as a boy and they identify inside as a girl, even if they don't come out, they have a painful experience. They don't have privileges as a boy if they feel like they're a girl. If they're a girl on the inside, that's not a privilege they get to live in the patriarchy as a boy, because they're not a boy, they're not a man. So I was just listening to this woman talk, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was feeling like shame on behalf of like my fellow sisters and also like lesbians and queer women, because they're, a lot of the women there were lesbians or queer. And, I get it. The point is this comes out of fear, right? So these women, these people, judging police, people judging people for getting the shot, not getting the shot in their arm, like it all comes from fear, which is all a cry for love. And so fear comes out as anger, as oppression, as hate, as ancient hate, as racism, as transphobia. Fear comes out in these really intense, violent ways, and it comes out as shaming other people. And I really felt the need to talk about it today because of what it's bringing up in me. So I'm not coming up. I'm not talking about this so I can judge and shame all these people for judging and shaming people. I am talking about this so I can bring my judgments about this to light and ask myself the difficult question, but the important question is, if I am having a reaction, an unpleasant reaction in my heart, in my mind, in my body, when I am hearing these judgments and shamings occurring, then that I need to look at that and look at, where is that judgment towards myself? Where is that shame towards myself? Or where is that shaming towards others happening inside of me? Because it's happening somewhere inside of me. So it may not look exactly the same. I may not be going out and shaming others for their decisions. But we're doing this in our own minds. We have judgments towards people, whether we're speaking them out loud or not. They're going on. The greatest spiritual teachers and teachers of God are not an exception to this either. We all have judgments that are kind of eating us up inside. And so I had a big reaction to the Women Born Women thing, and had to really work through that. And I have compassion for people who they're now all of a sudden in this new, like, oppressed group of people, so to speak, and that they may not be able to enjoy the privileges that other people who've had the shot are going to get to enjoy soon. And that makes me sad for them. And again, that's my illusion of their illusion. So we know it's an illusion. And I wanted to share. So I was struggling with getting sucked into a friend of mine's illusion and having my own illusion of that situation that my friend had been in for a long time. And I was asking my guardian angel about it later that night to show me something about, help me find clarity on what to do about this conflict in this friendship, in this long-time friendship with this person I love deeply. And the way that I'm thinking about this, I know that I'm seeing this wrongly. And it's coming from a place of love for my friend, for myself, but I must be seeing it wrongly because I'm not at peace about it. I'm not at peace about it. So I'm having judgments about it. So I opened up to not randomly, I opened up to, when I asked my guardian angel that question, I opened up to this part. It is chapter 28, section 4, the greater joining. And it is all about my illusion of my brother's illusion. So it was really perfect. And it, parts am I guided to share here? Okay, so it talks about accepting the atonement for yourself means not to give support to someone's dream of sickness and of death. Right there. If I want peace, if I want forgiveness, I don't need to give support to someone else's dream of sickness and death. Refuse to be a part of fearful dreams, whatever form they take, for you will lose identity in them. You find yourself by not accepting them as causing you and giving you effects. So don't accept that that is causing you to suffer in any way. I first have to be willing to accept, though, that that's how I feel. It is appearing like that is causing me to suffer. So first I have to accept and acknowledge that that is the response I had. That is the meaning I have made of it. And only then can I get to accepting them as not having any effect on me. And like you, your brother thinks he is a dream. Share not in his illusion of himself, for your identity depends on his reality. Think rather of him as a mind in which illusions still persist, but as a mind which brother is to you. Okay, so we're all of the one mind. You share confusion and you are confused, for in the gap, no stable self exists. And when I read that, it was so validating because I was so confused about why this conflict had happened with my friend. And I was confused because I was in the illusion of her illusion. And what is the same seems different because what is the same appears to be unlike. His dreams are yours because you let them be. But if you took your own away, would he be free of them and of his own as well? So this is my favorite part in this section. I'll read it again. You share confusion and you are confused, for in the gap no stable self exists. What is the same seems different because what is the same appears to be unlike. His dreams are yours because you let them be. But if you took your own away, would he be free of them and of his own as well? Your dreams are witnesses to his, and his attest the truth of yours. Yet if you see there is no truth in yours, his dreams will go, and he will understand what made the dream. The Holy Spirit is in both your minds, and he is one because there is no gap that separates his oneness from itself. So this is huge. I mean, this gives me this like teary emotional response, just like breathing into that and being willing to do that and to look at that and to see that as nothing but the truth. His dreams are yours because you let them be, but if you took your own away, would he be free of them and of his own as well? So if I take my dream, my illusion of my sister away, she has more of a chance of coming out of that illusion herself. If I take my judgment away of pro-shot in the arm and not pro-shot in the arm people, those people have more of a chance now of offering up their fears and being at peace. If I take my judgments of my feminist sisters away, of racist and transphobic people away, do they not now have more of a chance to offer up that fear that's causing that hate, or that it's fear of people that are unlike them, right? That hold such different opinions or such a different lifestyle that they can't possibly grasp that being okay or safe for them. So if I can be willing to not see their illusion as an illusion, if I can surrender my own illusion of them, they have more of a chance. And then they can choose to do that themselves or not. Many of them may never choose that in this lifetime. That's all right. But that's not for me to judge or shame, or that's not for me to be involved in, right? That we are of the one mind. So their process is my process and their judgments are mine, but that's not my work here on earth to be involved in their life in a practical way and try to change their mind. We know that that's not really how things work. So all I can do is change my mind. That's the beautiful, beautiful message of the Course is every time I make a choice, if I make a choice that I am not, and I am not at peace with that choice, guess what? I get to choose again the very next moment, every time. And if I make the wrong choice again and I'm not at peace, I get to choose again in the next moment, in the next moment for eternity. I get to still choose again. So it doesn't matter how many grievances I have been hauling in my backpack on my back for years and years and years. I can choose at any moment to be at peace. And I don't have to know how. I just have to be willing to ask the Holy Spirit to guide me in this. And I remember something that Jesus said. He said, they know not what they do. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. So if I'm looking at somebody doing something that I think is very bad, very wrong, I want to have the Christ mind for them and for myself and hold that for them and for myself. So I can say, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. So then that's up to God to forgive them for. And we know that God isn't really forgiving them for it, that they're already forgiven. But that's their process. So my process is, where is the forgiveness work within myself? What do I need to forgive myself for? I know I've been forgiven by God, but in my human ego, body, and mind, I need to go through a forgiveness process with myself to offer up those fears and those attacks and those illusions on others, those attacks on myself. And I can choose peace again. But to choose peace, that means that we weren't in peace. So I continue to be not a victim, but a walking vessel, a survivor of this human experience where I walk around in the world and I am witness to these real lived human experiences of attacking our brothers and sisters. That I get to have that come into my field of vision constantly right now, so that I can sit here and talk about this process with whoever's listening who is experiencing the same types of things. So I'm grateful for that. I am truly grateful for these opportunities. These triggers are golden, golden nugget opportunities to look at where these judgments are in ourselves. So, that means there was a time where I was engaging in some sort of transphobia and in some sort of internalized racism. I know there's times, because I went through Corinne Zepko's and Freedom Cartwright and Yolanda Batts and Emily Bennington's racism, anti-racism, the Course and racism. series, and I looked at a lot of that, and I found, guess what? I'm a white person, so I found internalized racism going on. I found past experiences where I was looking at that kind of thing, where I discovered that I was being racist. And so I had to go through that process of seeing other people engage in it in order for me to get into how was I engaging in that and showing up. And there was a time I can remember, I also with the transphobia, that there was a time I can recall many years ago when I was I had just gotten into a relationship where I had fallen in love with a trans man. And at the very beginning, when we first started dating, I said something about his appearance. It was like in a text message, and I hadn't thought about that in years. I had forgotten it, and and I had apologized at the time, and he had forgiven me, and it was all fine. But that came up in my awareness because I had said something that was not loving about his gender and gender expression. And so these things are happening inside us, and we can choose to uncover them or not. And that's our choice. It's always, always, always our choice to be willing to look. And the Course talks about that. Jesus talks about, being willing to uncover this stuff in order to get to peace, in order to offer up that fear and come out of the illusion and see the truth. We can only remember the truth if we uncover what is covering up the truth. So guess what? That's our judgments and our shaming and our attacks and our self-hatred and our fear of people and things that are different than us, and fear of the unknown, and all of that, our unworthiness. And so, I'm in the business of uncovering this. This is what kind of work could be more important than this? This is so important. And I'm remembering right now, Bill Thetford said in this the wonderful biography that Howe wrote on Bill Thetford, co-scribe of Course in Miracles, called Never Forget to Laugh. Such a beautiful book. And that is the best demonstration of forgiveness I've ever seen in my life. If Bill Thetford is not a walking, living proof of someone who fully forgives themselves and others, I don't know what is. It's so beautiful. And at one part in that book, he says, this situation, this is hopeless, but it's not serious. And he was a really funny guy. He had a great sense of humor, and everybody loved him. And you just fall in love with him as you read this book. And so, this might be hopeless, but it's not serious. And so this is the opportunity we have to laugh at, wow, like I really judged myself. I really attacked myself. I really took myself so seriously here to the point where I felt hopeless. And but it's not serious. I don't have to continue down the road of hopelessness because it's not serious. Everything is love. Everything is love. And a call for love is, hopefully going to be met with love at some point, whether it's the painful path for us to get there or not the painful path. And I'm truly grateful for all the painful paths that I have taken to get me to the place of gratitude and love, love for myself and love for others, through those painful experiences where I felt like a victim of myself, my body, of the world, of other people. That was my process. That was my journey. It doesn't have to be that painful, though. And the more we do this work, the undoing happens, and sometimes it can start feeling more painful. But that doesn't have to be the pattern for us anymore. It doesn't have to look like that. So I love that. I love that message. And it reminds me of this story. I hadn't thought about this in years, but it came to me late last night. I was probably 8 years old. I was in maybe second grade, and I was sitting in the lunchroom cafeteria. Now, I was a super quiet, sensitive, perfect student. I got all A's. I never got in trouble. I was shy. I was sensitive. I never got in trouble at home. I was that kind of kid. And I'm sitting in the lunchroom one day, and my friend, I don't know, flicked some food towards me at the table, like a cracker or something. And so I decided, just impulsively, and I'm not an impulsive kid or person, but in that moment, this was all for my learning. I decided I was going to take this cracker and flick it towards her or something. But I guess that it flung across the room, to the next table or something in the cafeteria. And our assistant, our vice principal, happened to be in the cafeteria at that moment and saw it happening. And oh my gosh, I was so terrified. He stopped, he silenced the whole cafeteria. He was this really big guy, really tall. He had white hair. I remember his name was Mr. Stark. And he was actually a great vice principal. He had that sternness that a vice principal is supposed to have, where they're, really strict and they're the disciplinarian, but he was a really wonderful man and wonderful person, you could tell. And everyone wasn't scared of him. He wasn't that stereotypical, but he had that, essence about him, that seriousness. And so he stopped the whole cafeteria and everyone got silent. He's like, who did that? Who flicked that food? And he kind of did this lecture about it. I would hope whoever did that knows what they did is wrong and can confess what they did. And that's not appropriate behavior. I don't know exactly what he said, but probably something like that. And I remember my heart was probably pounding out of my chest. I was probably feeling like I was going to faint, terrified to get in trouble and to be called out and shamed in front of all of my friends and the whole school in this cafeteria, this little 8-year-old that has never been in trouble in her life. And I was thinking about this experience last night because I realized that it was probably the first time that I remember, or the earliest memory I have now, of experiencing shame. And at the time, I probably just experienced it as embarrassment and fear, because I didn't probably know what shame meant or was then. But I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, that definitely was shame. I was there was no way that I was going to stand up and raise my hand and confess that I did it in that moment. It was pure terror for me. And my face was probably red, and maybe he saw me and he was like, oh, it probably is her, but maybe he wasn't going to call me out because he knew I probably would have wet my pants or something. It was called out on that. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I go home that night and I remember I told my mom what had happened and what I had done because I can't lie. Like I'm the worst liar. I can't keep a secret like that. It was too heavy on my little 8-year-old conscience. So, I told her and I was like, probably so like scared and I was going to get in trouble. And, I remember telling my mom, and I don't remember exactly how she responded, but I remember, I think that she had the essence of like, probably she had to like act like she was taking it seriously because I was so bent out of shape about it. But I don't think like she knew I was a good kid and that it's not like I was going to like continue doing things like this. And like, she knew I was like intensely guilty about this. So she probably like, I think she acted serious about it, but was probably inside being like, this is not a big deal. She didn't give me a punishment or anything, or she didn't shame me for it. She, actually really want to ask her. I want to ask her if she remember like what she remembers, because she has a good memory and she probably remembers more details about it than me. And I'd be curious to ask her about it. But so anyway, her decision was, well, why don't we go talk to Mr. Stark the next morning before school? I'll take you in and we'll talk to him and we'll tell him what you did. And it's like, okay. And I was so scared. And I remember walking in the office, my mom was just all relaxed and it's like not a big deal situation. And I remember sitting down next to my mom across the desk from Mr. Stark. And I tell him what I did, or maybe my mom said it, I don't know. Maybe I was too scared to talk. And I don't know what he said, but again, I remember the essence of like, don't do that again. You know, it's okay. I'm not going to give you a consequence for this because you being honest and bringing this to me is that's what I wanted. That's great. And, you know, I remember he was serious and, you know, but he was probably thinking, wow, like this is the kid that did that. um, so, you know, just the whole thing and the way I experienced it was an intervention with myself of itself, like that I had to, I couldn't keep that in me. I had to confess. And when I was thinking about that story, I just was laughing. It's so funny to me now, to think that my little 8-year-old self was so, it's not funny that I was scared and ashamed, but it's funny now to think that a little incident like that, me flinging a cracker that wasn't going to harm anyone, like it's not like it was even applesauce or something gross, like it was just a cracker. And the intense shame I felt from that, like I'm so like, if I just can't imagine, like if I was in a situation like that today, like in a lunchroom, like, you know, I used to be a teacher and a teacher aide and, you know, be in those situations. Like, I can't imagine like witnessing that situation and like seeing myself in one of those children and being like so scared. And like, I would just want to like go up to that child and just, you know, put my hand on their shoulder and be like, it's okay, honey. Like, you know, you're innocent. Like this okay that you did this, that you made this mistake. Like, yes, it's against the school rules, but you're going to be okay. You're innocent. You don't have to feel guilty or shamed about this. You were just being a kid. You were just being a kid. You know, this is not a hopeless situation. This is not serious. It felt to me very hopeless. It felt terrifying, but it wasn't serious. And Mr. Stark knew that. My mom knew that. And I think after that day, I probably knew that. But I certainly never did that again. So it's, you know, we take ourselves so seriously, but the thing is, you know, feeling shame, feeling fear, feeling hate, feeling anger, this is serious. But if I can look at myself later and be willing to forgive myself, be willing to maybe ask for someone else's forgiveness if I had done something, said something that wasn't loving, or did something that wasn't loving, and ask for forgiveness and apologize and ask myself forgiveness. If I can get to loving myself again, then that's when the laughter comes, because I am making light of this. I made a meaning that I was a bad person, that I was a sinner. And I'm not. So I get to let that go, and I get to be in the presence of God's love and know that I am innocent, because our innocence is guaranteed. So, and this works for situations that are more serious than flinging crackers across the lunchroom. Like this works with the most horrible stuff. And this process isn't an excuse to treat others with something less than love and to be mean and hurtful and shame others. The course is not an excuse to, I just get to, I get to take no responsibility for this and just forgive myself. No, that is absolutely, that has nothing to do with, that's the opposite of what the course is teaching. We have to bring this up to the light and heal it and take responsibility for ourselves. And that sometimes involves taking responsibility with others, going up and walking into that office and talking to that person and working through the fear and saying, I'm sorry I did this. I take responsibility for doing this. And so there's so many opportunities to forgive. And this is all I'm interested in. This is, what more important work is there than to do this forgiveness work, to be truly at peace? That's it. What else is there? And that reminds me of did I write this down? So Bill Free was speaking in Sundays with Spirit yesterday with Jennifer Hadley, and Bill was had talked about the lesson in the workbook in the course, lesson 188, which is why wait for heaven. And he was talking about just like, why wait for heaven when we can choose it now? We don't have to wait. We spend our whole life waiting. I'm just going to get there later, or I have to reconcile my actions, and I have to be a good person. I have to fix all these mistakes and all these things, and then I can get to heaven. I'll figure this out later. I have to learn this. I have to work really hard and do all these things for all these people, and then only then, maybe that'll be good enough to get to heaven. And that's just like, that's a crazy illusion. I can choose heaven right now. I get to be at peace right now, not later. I have the opportunity to choose heaven now, in every moment of the now, in every present moment for the rest of my life. I can choose that if I'm willing. If I'm willing to look at the pain and move through it, acknowledge it, notice how I feel in my body, Where is that pain coming up in my body? Where's that grief? Where's that anger sitting in my body? And listen to what it has to say. Listen to what it has to say, because it's real. It feels real. It's a real emotional experience of pain. I have to treat it as real before I can experience it as not real. So my body talks to me. Our body talks to us, and it has so much to say if we're willing to listen, because it has to get that stuff out of the way before we can hear what's in the background all the time, which is the beautiful truth, which is the love that we are. We are only love. Our sisters and brothers are only love. When I'm caught up in my illusion, when I'm caught up in my illusion of their illusion, when they're caught up in their illusion of mine, we are still only love. So every time I'm in a place of love and I'm feeling love, I am in heaven. That's a miracle every time. Every time, the Course says, every time we go from a place of not love to love, it says it in different ways, but every time we go from fear to love, that is a miracle. Every time we have a realization of truth, that is a miracle. So every time we choose love, that's heaven. That's heaven on earth. That is peace in our mind. That is the truth. That is love. That is a miracle. So how many times a day, when I named this many miracles, I think I'm gonna name my business, switch the name to my business from Kel Lash Coaching to Many Miracles Coaching, because this keeps coming to me, is every time in any given day, how many times could you actually count how many times in a typical day you move from fear to love? Because it's probably a lot of times. It's probably a lot of times. And if you're intentionally actively doing this work, it's probably a whole lot of times. So, we've got hundreds of miracles over the course of a day, a week, thousands of miracles, and that many more to come, and more, and infinite miracles to come. So every time we go from fear to love, that's a miracle. So I started off with, telling my story of all these judgments of people. And right now, where am I at right now? I check in with myself. There's not much charge in my body. There's a lot of peace throughout my body. And if I think about these issues that I brought up at the beginning, there is not currently a charge to it. I don't feel the judgments towards those people. And I know, but I am very aware right now as I check in with myself that those judgments are going to return. Next time, someone tells my friend they can't do something because they didn't choose to get that shot in the arm. Next time someone throws that term out in their dating profile, and I'm going to have a reaction. That's just the truth. So I'm willing to look at that and move through it and feel where that comes up in my body and offer that up to Holy Spirit to be healed, so that I can return to love and have my miracle. So Is there anything else I'm guided to share? No, that's it. So thank you. I love you all. Thanks for listening, anyone listening. And if you want to contact me, you can go to kellylashcoaching.com or you can email me at kellylashcoaching@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from anyone.